Hey everybody, welcome to the Deep Focus Show. I'm Aiden,
And I'm Andrew.
and we're continuing our series on what we would choose for the Oscars. This episode we're doing 1960 through 1964. Um, and yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about what you think about these years broadly, and then I could get into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good stretch. A lot of you know, top class films for me, and I'm finding that there's a little bit more depth for me, so I'll probably be pulling from a bunch of different sources. I think between like the picture awards, I only have one overlap, so that kind of speaks to how much I'm spreading it around. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is like a really good kind of series of years. Like, I think all of the films that I'm gonna put as the number one are like comfortably in like if I would to list like my top 50 all time, each of my winners would definitely be in there, which is I think the first section of 5 years I can say that. So it's a very good time for me. I'm a big fan. Um, yeah, if you wanna go first, getting us into 1960, sounds good.
All right, so for 1960, Best Picture, I'm going with Psycho. Not even sure what to even say about it. Just fantastic all around. Performances, direction, writing, all top class. What a great premise. You have like the secretary who embezzles money from work and runs off. And it's really a great thriller on this already. And then through misfortune, she gets entangled in something else. If you don't know, then check the movie out. Popularized the idea of like a movie taking a huge turn and maybe never done better than that. Really iconic, inventive, and gripping. And yeah, highly recommended that one. Um, for director, I could have easily doubled up again, but I'm trying to spread it around if I can. So this is probably a deeper cut. It's Jacques Becker for Le Trou, and it's a really excellent French film about these inmates scheming to break out of prison. And I think what stands out to me here are the choices. There's like certain shots that on paper you'd think would be almost monotonous, but it becomes captivating, like you're there living it. So wanted to highlight that one. And then for screenplay, I'm going with The Apartment, another classic from the year that deserves attention. Billy Wilder film, this time about a man loaning his apartment for men to have extramarital affairs. At the end of the day, it's a strong character writing movie that really makes this one stand out. Balances like the sleaziness of this basic concept, but with a lot of humor and poignance in the mix too. For actor, going back to Psycho with Anthony Perkins, role that might have been responsible for his typecasting thereafter, but I really think it's a masterful performance. He has to handle a lot of different tones in this role, oftentimes even within the same scene. I feel like there's a naturalistic approach that he brings here that adds an extra level of like disturbing to the context of the film. And for actress, I'm going with Shirley MacLaine in The Apartment, playing Fran, who operates the elevator at the office, who Jack Lemmon's character has feelings for. It's like a challenging role because she hits on a number of different emotional tones. Like she's sweet on the surface, but also insecure and troubled underneath. And we witness her fall into rock bottom before rising up from it again. There's a romantic element here too, but it's not in the typical way. So I think she did a great job. For supporting actor, Martin Balsam in Psycho, love him as Private Detective Arbogast. His scenes where he has to investigate into Marion, really just compelling. He's got this shrewdness that he's trying to get to the bottom of it. And then one last time to Psycho. It's another case where it's not entirely clear whether this would fall into lead or supporting. Ultimately, I'll follow what the Academy did in placing her here. Janet Leigh, famous role for good reason, and her place in this film is, of course, pivotal. I don't think the film's narrative choices should have us lose sight of her performance. She's carrying the story for a good chunk of the movie, and her interplay with the characters she encounters really keeps you on the edge of your seat. So those are my picks for 1960.
Yeah, definitely we got a lot of overlap. Um, so my number one best picture pick, I'm definitely going with The Apartment. For me, this is just like, I think my favorite film story ever. I think it's an example of just a perfect screenplay, perfect storytelling, and that really matters a lot for me. I love really all the choices made. I think Billy Wilder was such a brilliant writer, especially as well as director, but I think the writing is really where he's kind of immortalized, I guess. So I'm definitely giving it the screenplay award too. Um, for direction, I just wanted to mix it up a little bit. So I'm gonna do Michael Powell for Peeping Tom. And the main reason for this is I think it speaks to such creativity to do a horror film in this way and shoot it in such lush, like three strip Technicolor. It looks like the Red Shoes almost in the way it like looks, but it's this kind of grim story that's very interesting. Um, in terms of acting awards, I'm gonna do Jack Lemmon in The Apartment for Best Actor. I think Jack Lemmon is such an underrated and great actor. He has such a great kind of comic, but also dramatic persona in these type of films. I think, Billy Wilder cast him so often in this period, and Some Like It Hot, and this, and Fortune Cookie later on, and so many films together. And I think he did it because he recognized like it's a great match for his kind of style of writing. And I'm also going to do Shirley MacLaine for actress because it's so much more depth than you usually get from like, you know, in quotes, the love interest in these type of movies. Like she has so much more to chew on as an actress and so much more to work with for her character that it really makes it something special. Um, Supporting awards, I'm gonna line up with you. I'm gonna do Martin Balsam from Psycho. I think he's just a great actor in this, a great actor in pretty much everything. Um, one of all 12 supporting actor runner-ups for 12 Angry Men that you could have done. And I'm gonna do same supporting actress as you, Janet Leigh. It's interesting they gave it her like the supporting nomination, I guess, when I think of her kind of as the lead, and then it's, obviously the twist everyone kind of knows, I think. But so yeah, I'll do supporting actress, even though like if I wasn't, kind of following the Academy, I might, do lead for this. But yeah, great movie, and kind of perfect execution of suspense that very few directors today can even match. So definitely a lot of love for Psycho.
Very nice. Yeah, I think if I hadn't seen her nomination there at all, I would have just had to
Yeah.
go somewhere else. But anyways, um, for 61, Best Picture, I'm going with The Hustler. Kind of like with courtroom dramas, I've always found the contained rules on stories about games and competition really intriguing, and it lends it well, like lends itself well to great performances and dialogue. Has like this winner take all stakes scenario, and here we have a definitive movie about pool hitting on those marks. So I'm gonna nominate that one for picture, and then for director, I'm going with Jack Clayton in The Innocents. This is an adaptation on The Turn of the Screw about a governess who gets to an estate taking care of two children. But then there's questions like, is this like a haunted place and all that stuff? Classy and stylish with some really creepy shots and even this almost like psychedelic montage sequence that really leaves an impression on me. And then for screenplay, I'm going with Judgment at Nuremberg. Why not go with another brilliant legal drama? This one, a dramatization of the Nuremberg trials with an all-star cast leading the way. A unique element here has to be the complexity and scope of emotions that go into doing a post-mortem on Nazi Germany. And then for actor, someone who I wanted to highlight more than once, couldn't find a place, but here we go. Peter Cushing in the movie called Cash on Demand. And this is a personal favorite, and it's like an underappreciated little film. I best describe it as like a hostage heist film meets A Christmas Carol. And Cushing does a great job as like this. It's like a crotchety bank manager put into this awful situation. And I always like these stories where people have like this unlikable front, but whose humanity comes out in times of adversity. So, highly recommend that one. For Best Actress, I'm going with Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Iconic role for her as this enigmatic socialite, Holly Golightly, balancing a free-spiritedness, but also like a bit of like scandalous element to it, and confusion that she has to deal with. Outwardly charming, but with a troubled upbringing and issues beneath the surface. For actor, I'm going with Montgomery Clift in Judgment at Nuremberg, playing a concentration camp victim who'd undergone forced sterilization, perhaps made all the more poignant by his real-life substance abuse that was slowly killing him. Apparently, he could barely remember his lines, but the end result is really heartbreaking. And then also from Judgment at Nuremberg, Judy Garland, another supporting a memorable performance in a film about like a woman who has to like dredge up her sad past and gets badgered at the witness stand.
Yeah, I have lining up with you on some of these again. My best picture pick, one of my favorite films of all time, John Huston's The Misfits. I think it's just a perfect story. And all of the performances are amazing. The kind of ending, the way it looks, the visuals, it's just the kind of movie that's very unique and it's hard to match. Best actor, I'm going to do The Hustler with Paul Newman. I think he's just such a great actor throughout the 60s. He has so many iconic roles. Like, he practically, every year he kind of has another, huge role that's pretty iconic and famous. So that's an easy enough pick. Best actress, I'm going to say, this is a bold statement, but I think this is my favorite actress award I'm going to give out in this whole series. I'm going to do Marilyn Monroe in The Misfits. This is just one of my favorite performances of all time. It's such a unique and dramatic role from her. And it's so much different than the kinds of things you'd expect, the kinds of movies that she was in like the 50s and stuff. Especially the scene where she like has like a nervous breakdown in the middle of the desert and basically screams at Clark Gable and Montgomery Clift. It's insane. It's such an insane performance and so much range that it's really, really quite incredible. For best supporting actor, it was a tough choice, not an actor, because I knew I was going to give it to Montgomery Clift, but the only question was for The Misfits or Judgment at Nuremberg. And I'm going to do Judgment at Nuremberg, lining up with you. I think it's just such a harrowing movie, and part of that is definitely this performance and just so much, and it's so kind of ambitious, I guess, to tackle a movie with this subject matter so soon after the Second World War that it seems very, very, very bold, I guess. I'm gonna go back to The Misfits for supporting actress with Thelma Ritter. I really like her performance in this, how she plays kind of a mentor figure, I guess, to Marilyn Monroe's character, to Rosalind. And she's kind of the voice of reason, but it doesn't work out so much by the end. And then I kind of got, for director, this is not really a movie that I love that much. I'd say I like it, but I'm going to do Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, simply because there is so much influence in this movie on the later spaghetti westerns like Leone and Corbucci and Selima, that it seems like, even if like I don't love this movie, it's like it's like it's a common ancestor of like 12 or 13 movies I do really love. So I think I have to shout it out for that. Best script, this is one, it's kind of an obscure one. It's a movie called Blast of Silence, and it's like a neo-noir basically. But the reason I highlight the script is it's very interesting because the entire script is in the second person. like the narration, like it's every line is like he's not saying like, oh, I did this, and he's saying, and then you do this. Like it's very interesting the way that they tell the story in this one. Um, and it's yeah, it's just and it's also just kind of this interesting, very low budget independent film from this kind of era. It's so much grimier and kind of sleazier than mainstream Hollywood films. Um, that I felt I should give it a shout out. But and yeah, and I think I definitely want to watch Cash on Demand now, the way you describe it. It sounds like a movie that's very much up my alley, so I'll give it a watch.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Nice. We've had some nice overlaps so far. Let's see if we can get any matches again. For Best Picture, I'm going with 1962 To Kill a Mockingbird. One of those cases where I read the book in school and was actually pleasantly surprised just how much the film delivered what I was looking for in like a cinematic adaptation, both a nostalgic coming of age piece and like a heart-wrenching legal drama on prejudice. And I'll also give it the Screenplay Award. Fantastic dialogue highlighted by Peck's monologue. For Director, I'm going to mix it up with David Lean, Lawrence of Arabia. Epic in scale and visually engrossing, really remarkable directorial achievement, fantastic use of the long shot, responsible for one of the more noteworthy character introductions in terms of how it's presented in film. For actor, going one last time back to Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck. This was a great year for him, having also done Cape Fear. Ultimately, it's like this dignified role he brings as Atticus Finch that I just find hard to really deny. So, for Best Actress, gonna go with Bette Davis. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? She plays the title character, and she's pretty terrifying as like this delusional, abusive sister to Joan Crawford's wheelchair-bound Blanche. One of the great villains in film, and I would say undoubtedly an inspiration for future characters of this type, like Annie Wilkes in Misery and stuff. For supporting actor, go with Peter Sellers in Lolita. Probably not the last time I'll be talking about him in this series. I don't think there are many actors who could pull off this role. It's kind of like zany and charismatic and disturbed all in one. And then lastly, for supporting actress, Patty Duke in The Miracle Worker. She's playing, at quite a young age, playing Helen Keller in this biopic. She's due to an illness as a baby, was left blind and deaf, and then was unable to communicate in a meaningful way. So it's a really gripping film about Anne Bancroft's character, determined to prove there was really an inner mind to unlock with enough time and patience. Not only an emotionally exhausting performance, but some of the extended sequences are really physically demanding too. It's really impressive job there.
Yeah,
and that's my 1962 picks.
yeah, nice picks. I think, yeah, so this year is kind of hard for me. There's so much stuff I kind of want to spotlight and talk about. Best Picture, I'm going to do Lawrence of Arabia, which won in 1962, the award. I just think it's the purest kind of representation of like the kind of maximalist filmmaking that I really love. It's a pure epic of kind of unparalleled gargantuan proportions for David Lean. It's like 4 hours long. It's such a bold and insane level of just everything in this movie. The character, the story, everything is cranked up to 11, and that's really nice. So for screenplay, I'm gonna do To Kill a Mockingbird, just because I think this is, obviously this is a story and a story I grew up with a lot. The author's from Atlanta, so it's like our like hometown book everyone reads. Um, and but this story is just amazing, and especially in this film, it's classic. And I wanted to spotlight Gregory Peck for the acting, but I'm gonna go with Sean Connery and Dr. No. You know, I'm a huge James Bond fan. It's, you know, one of my favorite film series out there, especially the 1960s ones are just among my favorites. And a lot of that is this performance. Obviously, a lot of it is also the directing, which is top notch, and the stories based on the great books and all that. But a lot of it also does come down to that naturally great charisma that he even has in the very first movie, even though, you know, they were working on a limited budget and kind of there's, you know, problems with the filmmaking because of that. The performance still shines through and it's still really great. Um, Actress award, I'm going to do Sue Lyon in Lolita. This is a movie I think is really underrated for Kubrick. And I think a lot of that obviously comes from like the subject matter, but also the history of like censorship behind this film. But I think what she does really well in this performance is embodies the character both as she really is, but also as like James Mason as Humbert kind of imagines her. Like she uh goes over the line of like what's actually her and what's just like his like fevered imagination of what she thinks of him, which is very true to the book, I guess. I read some of it. I didn't finish it. I don't read that much. um, Best supporting actor, I'm gonna do Robert Mitchum in Cape Fear, a movie I really like. You know, it's super Hitchcockian, I guess. And it's you know, this story of has always appealed to me of this kind of malevolent force of nature. You know, he kind of reminds me of Michael Myers in Halloween, where he's completely inhuman in the sense that like you feel like nothing could kill him. Like it's this kind of primordial ooze of evil, I guess. And he really embodies that type of character excellently. You know, it's like it's interesting because in some ways it's a little bit like how he was in Night of the Hunter, but in other ways the character's totally different. But I think what they have in common is they have this, you know, just like magnetic aura of menace in every scene. Um, yeah, and for supporting actress, I'm gonna do Ursula Andress and Dr. No, like just kind of establishing the archetype of the Bond girl is, you know, an iconic scene, an iconic character. You know, it's one of those things where like on paper, you know, neither her or really Sean Connery is like probably the best actor or supporting actress this year, but it's like they defined this series that would go on to have, you know, 26, 27 installments down the line and were kind of so iconic at the time that I wanted to shout that out. And finally, for best director, back to the treasure trove. I'll do Orson Welles in The Trial. This directing is so feverish and kind of neurotic that it's something so interesting. You know, it's kind of it's like nothing he'd done before. Every scene is this kaleidoscope of surreal insanity. And you know, obviously part of that is the book, you know, Kafka and that kind of tone, but a lot of it is just also him being crazy at this point, I guess. But it's really great, and Anthony Perkins kind of playing the lead role does an excellent job too, and was definitely someone else I considered. So yeah, that's 62 very hard decisions to make.
Nice picks. I was very close to having Robert Mitchum as well. For 63 we're on now. Best Picture. Gonna go with The Great Escape, classic adventure slash war film, I guess you'd call it. If you want to see people team up to break out of something seemingly inescapable, this might be the movie for you. Strong score, great cast, great cinematography, ambitious, and also a sense of entertainment too. For director, going with Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds. I really just love when a B movie idea gets the A movie execution, and I think this is a good example of that. Underappreciated component of this film is there's quite a bit of subtext with the characters beyond just the nature strikes back thing. But I think the remarkable part is just how they were able to pull this off practically in 1963. And I don't think it would be the same today. It just wouldn't be as immersive with the concept. And for screenplay, I'll go with It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Probably one of the less conventional winners for this, but I really just love the frantic hijinks built into this one. It's the closest thing you get to like an epic and absurd comedy. It's like 3 hours long itself, juggling between different perspectives as a bunch of people find themselves on the hunt for a fortune and facing various misfortunes on the way. And then for actor, we'll go with Steve McQueen in The Great Escape, bringing his cool persona and star power, leading the charge to the story. Actress Julie Harris in The Haunting. She plays Eleanor, this like lonely woman who gets mixed up into the Hill House scenario. And she has to play her with a fragile mental state, vulnerable and also disturbed, in many respects already haunted by her past before the actual haunting of the title happens. And for supporting actor, we'll go with Walter Matthau in Charade, however you want to call it. In this like thriller about vacations, murder, allegiances, and a whole lot of money, he's great playing this CIA administrator part in the film without getting in too much into the spoilers. It's a performance that leaves you reevaluating character intentions, and his understated charisma helps bring that along too. And then for best supporting actress, go with the Bird's Suzanne Pleshette. I think she really makes the most of the screen time she has. There's like a mysterious aspect to her character. It makes you wonder for a time if there's more than meets the eye. And she's almost intimidating at first, but she's just a character of history. Plays off Tippi Hedren very well as the school teacher and ex to Rod Taylor's Mitch. Those are my picks for 63.
Yeah, this kind of year is another very hard one, I guess. But I do line up with you on the I guess top level picture award. You know, The Great Escape is just so classic. It's another one, you know, where I kind of talked about this with Lawrence of Arabia, where I love this kind of 3 hour totally maximalist sense of spectacle, and kind of everything, you know, and throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, into the movie and making it something just, you know, the kind of movie you have to see in theaters on the big screen opening night. That's a really impressive feat. So for actor, I think this actually was the winner, Sidney Poitier for Lilies of the Field. This is a great performance, very classic. I love this movie. And you know, you know, he's in so many great movies around this time that it was time for him to get the award. And you know, this movie definitely merits it. Then for actress, I'm gonna do Audrey Hepburn in Charade. It's another one kind of like, it's kind of like Cape Fear, you know, in that it's like a riff on Hitchcock. I feel like a lot of directors around this time were trying to do that again. But I really like this movie a ton. I love the like quintuple role of Cary Grant, and you know, all the crazy hijinks and spy shenanigans. I do think the movie kind of has kind of a slow start, but I think it really picks up in kind of intensity and energy later on that I really like. Supporting actor, wanted to get some kind of representation for this era of movies. I'm going to do Boris Karloff in The Raven. This is just you know, Edgar Allan Poe, one of Roger Corman's, but you know, I like all of these from this era, between this and The Pit and the Pendulum, The Mask with the Red Death, that it felt right that I give one of them some kind of shout out. Best supporting actress, I'm going to do Lily Escala in Lilies of the Field 2. She's playing kind of, I guess, the foil to Sidney Poitier, and it's a great character, a great role. Kind of, this is, you know, just that kind of old school storytelling that I don't really think you see anymore. Then finally, director and writing awards. I'm going to say director John Sturges in The Great Escape, his ability to bring this huge narrative together with amazing actors, and also the score, which is probably one of my favorite musical scores ever, in the way that it takes that one theme and just makes it, does all these different arrangements of it, where there's some of them are upbeat, some of them are like, string heavy, and there's a lot of variety in the storytelling. That's really cool. And finally, for storytelling, to move on to screenplay, I'm going to do Billy Wilder and I.L. Diamond for Irma la Douce. It's kind of a retread of The Apartment in a lot of ways, but it's still a great movie. It's still an amazing screenplay, especially in the way that it juggles so many characters with comedy and this zany tone, but also has, it's also very long. Like, it's like 2.5 hours, which is very interesting for like a bizarre, screwball comedy in the 60s. So that's cool. Maybe it's the Lawrence of Arabia of random bizarre like slapstick comedies. I don't know. But yeah, those are my picks. Really, really great year.
Yeah, I guess that's the year of long comedies getting the screenplay award, since we both
Yeah.
went that route. um, and I also grew up on The Raven, so I love to see that shout out too. For 64, Best Picture, Doctor Strangelove, one of those one-of-a-kind films, comedy and satire but war through the cold Kubrick filter. Memorable set pieces, performances that live on in pop culture. Not much else to say about it. And for director, we'll go with Masaki Kobayashi for Kwaidan. And this is an anthology horror film out of Japan, and probably the most beautiful looking ever that falls into that category. Phenomenal use of color and composition to bring life to these tales of ghosts and folklore. And then probably a deeper cut for screenplay. It's a movie called Seance on a Wet Afternoon, adapted from a novel, and it's really fascinating film surrounding this. Like, she's like an aspiring medium, and she enlists her husband to kidnap like a young girl so she can aid the police with information under the guise of her abilities. Naturally, it's never as simple as planned, but it's the type of story that just kind of has you hooked to see how things are going to play out. And then for actor, Peter Sellers in Doctor Strangelove. I mean, here's a guy playing 3 wildly different roles, including the title character, and pulling it all off. I think he's just kind of a comedic legend, operating at the height of his powers here. So that's a doubling up on Peter Sellers there. And for Best Actress, Julie Andrews in Mary Poppins as Mary Poppins. Brings a lot of class and charm as like this prim, magical nanny. And what I like about this performance is how she kind of straddles this line between sweet and stubborn. So I think it's kind of cool. And supporting actor, one more time to Doctor Strangelove with Sterling Hayden. Another really standout performance in this film, playing General Jack D. Ripper. I think the interactions between him and the one Sellers character is maybe even my favorite part of the film. He's really hilarious, spewing out these insane ramblings while playing it straight as like this confident military official. And then for supporting actress, I'm going to go with Gladys Cooper in My Fair Lady, playing the role of Henry Higgins' mother, for which she was nominated, and she just brings like this good amount of like British regalness to the role that you need. So yeah, and that'll sum up my picks for this video.
Every year of these is so hard to pick stuff, I guess. Like, it's, there's only so many things you can do. My pick for my favorite movie this year, I'm going to do The Night of the Iguana, the classic John Huston film. Just incredible story, which, spoiler, it's my screenplay award too, by Tennessee Williams. This kind of very low key, but also totally unique. No other movie has this kind of plot, and it's really something very unique, very special. It's also going to get my acting award for Richard Burton. The way he just is like manic and insane throughout this movie is really really enjoyable because you're just watching 2 hours of a guy like lose his entire sanity and like become insane basically. That's a lot of fun. Best actress, I'm gonna do Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady. This is just a classic Hollywood spectacle type of film. It's another, 3 hour movie. And it's one of those where I love the story and I love everything about it. Um, for supporting, I'm gonna line up with you for actor with Sterling Hayden in Doctor Strangelove. This is just my favorite part of this is I agree how like straight he plays his like deluded ramblings. I really like that. That's a lot of fun. And supporting actress, I'm gonna go back to The Night of the Iguana with Deborah Kerr. I like how she plays against Richard Burton's character. And I like how there's like four main characters, I guess, in this, and each of them has their own arc and has their own kind of thing to do that is unique. And I think that's why the storytelling is really so great in this one. And then finally for director, I'm gonna do Guy Hamilton for Goldfinger. I think with this he kind of defined like the ideal of action directing. I kind of want to say like it's that blend of comedy, action, suspense, everything is just fine tuned here, and it's just a really great movie for that reason. So yeah, that that sums up my choices. 64. So yeah. Um I hope you guys enjoyed hearing us talk about all these, and see you next time. I think we'll probably watch The Color Purple next week. Hopefully doesn't get delayed again. We'll see. But see you next time.
I think my next the next Oscars video,
Yeah,
I might place this one above that, but there are some years there that are going to be absolutely loaded, so it'll be fun to see how that turns out.
definitely excited.